The customer experience for dog groomers. In this presentation, I'm going to talk to you about customer service. We'll briefly cover the basics that everyone in a customer-facing role should be familiar with. We'll talk about the customer experience, what it is and how to improve it. I'll also be introducing you to basic NLP techniques, what they are and how they can help you. As we finish off this presentation, I'll introduce you to methods of personal growth and help you decide how you will put any of the things you've learned into practice. You might already have a set of regular clients and think, why invest in improving your customer service? I'm going to tell you exactly why in this presentation, but don't just take my word for it. Let me share these statistics with you from independent studies by Salesforce Research, who found that 62% of customers say they share their bad experience with others. 57% of customers have stopped buying from a company because a competitor provided a better experience. 72% of customers say they will share their good experiences with others, and 67% of customers say they will pay more for a great experience. In my first year of working for myself, back in 2012, I asked a customer if she was happy with her groom. She said, "Well, I don't like the way you cut his hair, but I love the way you are with him and I completely trust you, so I'll never take him to anyone else." My first thought was, gosh, I've got sloppy and I need to invest in improving my scissor work, and I started looking at buying a poodle to improve it that way. I then reflected on that again and thought how great it was that that customer valued her dog's happiness more than the way his hair looked, and the most important thing to her was that her dog was happy to be with me. So you can be the most technically gifted and knowledgeable groomer in the world, but give customers poor customer service or a bad experience, and you wouldn't necessarily be as successful as you might think. According to a study by a company called Kolsky, it costs 6 to 7 times more to attract a new customer than it does to retain an existing customer. So there's proof that existing customers are worth investing in. Let's just cover some basic customer service skills that everyone in a customer-facing role should know. Number 1, smile. Make the customer feel welcomed and noticed. Always greet a customer straight away and with a smile. By smiling when you're talking on the phone can also ensure your tone of voice and the impression you give is positive. Have good posture. It helps you to make you appear like you're ready to work and you want to be there. You want to serve that customer. Plus, it's healthy for you. 3. Always listen to your customer. You cannot meet your customer's needs or make them feel valued if you don't properly listen. Be prepared. Ensure you can meet the customer needs by having a full toolbox, metaphorically and physically. If someone wants to book but you can't get to your diary, means you cannot meet that customer's needs. If you have worked in a retail chain store, you'll know that staff will be trained to say specific things like, "Did you find everything you were looking for? Would you like help with your packing?" They also have quality control measures in place. When I worked on the tills at Sainsbury's, we were spot checked regularly. Many retailers use a mystery shopping service as well. These rules are all well and good, but what retailers of luxury goods are investing in is the customer experience. The best way to define customer experience is as the impression you leave with your customer. For example, some customers in a supermarket love having their groceries packed for them, but customers like my dad, for example, on the other hand, hate having their bags packed for them. My dad will specifically choose a till with a customer service representative that served him before and he likes because they don't talk to him and they let him get on with his own packing. The ideal experience is different for every customer, and good customer service meets the individual needs of the customer. So what are the needs of the customer? Your customer has a dog that requires grooming. Firstly, they will need to gather information in order to choose a groomer. They will need to research local groomers. They may look at reviews or seek word-of-mouth recommendations. They will then gather information about potential groomers, including what services they offer. Do you offer all customers a full groom? What does that even mean to the customer? Very little, and it doesn't help them to make their decision and will force them to ask further questions. So what information is available to them online? On a website? Secondly, they will need to know their chosen groomer provides a service that meets their needs. So do you offer that full groom, or do you offer more than that? What even is that full groom? Do you go by the size of a breed? Not very helpful and often ambiguous if you've just got small, medium and large and XL. Do you offer different services based on coat type? A great example is a Cocker Spaniel. They vary greatly in size. Some are small, some are medium. Is it a working or a show cocker? Is it hand stripped or clipped? Does it have feathers? Does it have a light silky coat, or does it have one of those hideous dense coats that takes an hour just to dry? They would receive a different service to a working cocker with a good coat that gets a bit of soft stripping, or the cocker that gets clipped off, or the in-between cocker that just gets its feet tidied. You likely already personalise your service and price according to the grooming requirements, but do you personalise your service according to the customer's behaviour? My dad, as we've discussed already, likes to be in and out of a shop with minimal interaction, but many customers like to chat, especially about their dog. When I worked alone, I used to allocate an extra 15 minutes to each appointment for customers who liked this interaction. You could add on a charge to cover your time for this, but remember, looking after your existing customers is much cheaper than investing in finding new ones. Speaking of costs, by which I mean costs to run the business, business costs should be used to set your prices, but there are many other factors and different ways to set your prices, so be sure to check out my other video on that. So far, the customer has found you, the groomer, and has gathered information. They've used your services and they've paid. But how convenient was it for them? How easy was it for them to make the appointment, to find you, to park, to collect their dog, to pay, and to make a new appointment? Is it convenient enough for them to do it again? Or was the quality of your work so good that they will go out of their way to come to you again? This does happen, especially if you have gone above and beyond all of the former points. That leaves us with security, recognition, and empathy. How well do you protect the customer's data? Do you know you cannot share customer information or use it for marketing purposes without their prior permission? Social media is a tricky one to manage, and you need permission to share photos of customers' dogs on social media. Also, don't mention the dog's name, and please make sure their collar tag is invisible. Do you recognise your customers' value? Would your business thrive without them? Generally, the answer is no, but sometimes it can be yes if the customer is consistently late, difficult with payments, goes too long between grooms. All these factors would need managing to safeguard the future success of your business. Therefore, reward your loyal customers who do pay and arrive on time, who rebook regularly and make your business thrive. Empathy is required when there's a problem, so let's look a little deeper into that. It's often joked that doctors have a terrible bedside manner. They're just there to get the job done. Well, that's part of their job. They can't get emotionally attached, so they can't perform their job well. Their customers aren't choosing to use their services. Your customers choose you every time they book an appointment with you. One thing that irritates me personally with hairdressers is that, in my personal experience, the first time I go to a new hairdresser, the cut is amazing. I'm generally thrilled, but over time they put less effort in. They've already built a rapport with me and they are distracted by the chatting. Anyway, I digress. When might you need empathy for your customer? Here's one real-life example I can give you. I was teaching a group of Level 2 students at a college in my first ever teaching role. We were well into the course and the students were very passionate. One afternoon, we got an elderly gentleman bring 2 Lhasa Apsos. The dogs were old, they were morbidly obese, they were matted solid. They had so much gunk around their eyes that the fringe hair had become matted with the muzzle hair and their eyes were completely covered. They had poo matted around their bums, they were sore and they stunk. The students set to work on these dogs and groomed them with the utmost kindness and empathy. As they discovered the dogs suffering during the groom, they grew angrier and angrier at the owner for letting them get to this state, and they wanted me to report him to the RSPCA. I refused at the time, and I said we must give this man a chance. We didn't know his backstory, we'd only just met him. For all we knew, he could have recently lost his wife due to a drawn-out battle with cancer, and he might not have had the time or energy to provide his dogs with their needs. He should have given them to a rescue then, said one of the students. Maybe, but maybe these dogs are all he has left in this world. Maybe they're the only thing getting him out of bed every morning. He has now turned his focus to these dogs. He has brought them for their much-needed groom. I said we would politely offer our advice without judgment. We would ask him if he would like to book their next appointment, and we will give him the benefit of the doubt, respectfully. The students listened and did as I asked. The gentleman thanked them for caring for his dogs. He paid for the groom and tipped heavily. He asked them how often he should rebook before they had a chance to even ask him. They told him 6 weeks, so he asked them to rebook him every 4, and he returned every 4 weeks for the whole time that I worked at the college. We never knew why he'd let them get in such a state that time, but he didn't owe us a reason. That was his personal business, and he was grateful for our respect. If we'd have told that customer off and shamed him for the neglect of his dogs, would he have returned? Would he have recommended us via word of mouth? Would he have left us a positive review? Many years ago, I had a Great Dane I foolishly tried to breed that went horribly wrong and cost me a lot of money, and a cocker called Alice who was poorly bred with no KC or history and had all the spaniel eye problems, and because of that and other things she had a tendency to eat inedible things. By age 6, she had had 3 foreign body removals and the 4th killed her. Over the years I'd spent thousands on veterinary care for her, not all covered by insurance either. The vets and vet nurses knew me well, and every time I called them they'd recognise my voice and panic and say, "Oh, not again." Then one day I took my working cocker for his annual boosters. He'd gone 3 years between his last one and he needed to start again. That was my intention and my personal opinion, and I was happy with that, and my vet offered me the same respect and lack of judgment that we'd offered the man who'd once neglected his dogs. However, a new veterinary receptionist had started working there who had no rapport with me, and like my former students, was passionate about her job. After the vet had seen me, I went to pay, and as I took my card out of the machine, the young receptionist made the snide remark, "Maybe don't leave it so long next time if you care about your dogs." I was taken by surprise, and was too slow with my thought process to even respond. But my emotions weren't slow. I instantly felt angry, enraged even. I had paid thousands to keep my other dogs alive over the years, and I went out of my way to give them the best life I possibly could. And here this young receptionist was chastising me just as I was paying for vaccinations. It was only because I had such a great rapport with the 2 vets and all the other vet nurses that I just let it go. She was young and inexperienced and simply had a lot to learn. Don't make the same mistake that she did when you get a matted dog or a neglected dog. I stayed with my vet after that, and even after I moved house and was 45 minutes away. Why have I took with the drive? Well, I already knew my vet and had all the information I needed on the location, phone number, where to park, and how much the consultations cost. I did register at a new vet, local to my new house in case of emergencies. 45 minutes could be the difference between life and death. The new vet's was not convenient in comparison to my old vet's, apart from the distance. The new vets didn't let you book an appointment. You had to turn up at clinic times and take a ticket, like you used to at the meat counter in supermarkets back in the day, and wait for your number to be called. You could be waiting over an hour to be seen. They had locum vets too, so you didn't see the same vet every time. Both the vets at my old practice knew all my pets by name. I once called my new vets in for an out-of-hours emergency. My new cocker Rico couldn't open his mouth, and his face was swelling on one side. The vet suggested a sting, and advised I monitor it for a while. I assured them that I doubted it was a sting. She asked for more information, but still assured me that the likely cause was a reaction to a sting, and offered an expensive antihistamine. My gut instinct was that it wasn't a sting, and I waited until the morning to call my usual vet. He trusted my gut instinct and got me in that morning, and it turned out to be myositis, which is a rare muscle problem, and his treatment was effective and at a reasonable price. His services were convenient, and he gave me all the information I needed to continue treatment at home. Rico recovered quickly and is monitored for any signs of swelling, and I left feeling respected, empowered, and confident in my instincts. I felt I had received quality services for good value, and I had confidence in my vet. A lot of emotions at play. These emotions are what ultimately create the customer experience, or the buying experience as some say, and there is research to back up that theory. According to Philip Adcock, a consumer behaviour expert, the following are the statistics on emotion versus rational thought on purchasing decisions. Emotional reactions are 3,000 times quicker than rational thought. Emotional parts of the brain process sensory input 5 times faster than rational thought. The persuasiveness ratio of emotion to reason is 24 to 1. So let's look at the buying experience in more depth. At the time of writing this watch was available to buy in 3 different shops in Meadowhall Shopping Centre in Sheffield: Beaverbrooks, Goldsmiths and the Omega Boutique. The product is exactly the same, the price is exactly the same. So how do these stores ensure they get the sale? The staff can't change the location of their shop. They've already done their visual merchandising for the day the customer arrives at the shopping centre. The customer might visit all 3 stores and barter them all down and go with the best price. But this is a luxury item and not a pallet full of bricks to supply a builder. So what does matter to the customer? Why was the customer spending £5,500 on a watch? It could have been a gift for a loved one or from a loved one. The loved one might have been with them. They might have been celebrating a milestone or an achievement. The salesperson who explores the customer's reason for buying and makes the customer feel positive emotions will be the one who gets the sale and seals the deal. That's just one example. Negative emotions are at play too. Let's be honest, who hasn't drowned their sorrows in a tub of Ben and Jerry's? But dogs are a luxury item in reality, and regular grooms most certainly are, however necessary they are for the dog's health. Their experience when shopping influences their decision to buy. According to a study by McKinsey & Company, 70% of buying experiences are based on how the customer feels they are being treated. So what does that mean? So how did that salesperson create a positive experience based on the customer's emotions and experience? They couldn't do it without building a rapport. How many of you have walked into a jewellery store with a sentence already formed and on the tip of your tongue, ready for when the sales assistant asks you if you'd like any help? "I'm just looking, thank you," is the typical answer, or it was when I was a jewellery sales assistant anyway. The definition of rapport is a close and harmonious relationship in which the people or groups concerned understand each other's feelings or ideas and communicate well. There are scientific ways to build a rapport quickly. As a jewellery salesperson, we were encouraged to look for something about the customer that could be used to start a conversation that wasn't about the weather. For example, what carrier bags were they carrying? Was there a logo that could spark a conversation? Did the customer have a fresh tan that suggests they'd been on holiday recently? A new hairstyle maybe? Usually it needs to be something positive and not likely to trigger negative emotions. A groomer has it so easy because of the dogs. People love to talk about their dogs. However, there are scientific ways to build a rapport quickly. Mirroring. This is when you match your tone of voice and behaviour to your clients. Mimicking is unnatural and off-putting and is definitely not what is meant by mirroring in NLP. Think more like posture, body language, gestures, breathing rates, voice, and making eye contact when talking. You can also match their language and repeat some of the key words they use back to them. The words a customer emphasises can be words that are important or meaningful to them. Building trust in your customers takes time, but it will encourage them to be loyal and return for many years, if not for the dog's entire lifetime. Eye-accessing cues in NLP are movements of the eyes in certain directions that indicate visual, auditory, or kinesthetic thinking. If a person looks up, they are processing visually, thinking or remembering with images or patterns. If a person looks directly to the side, they are using auditory processing, thinking about or remembering sound information. If a person looks down, they are using kinesthetic processing from tactile sensations of touch, smell, and taste. Short unconscious movement of the eyes in a different direction provide information about the representation system from which information is being retrieved. Oftentimes, if people are looking to your left, they may well be constructing a lie, and if they are looking to your right, they are retrieving a memory and telling the truth. It's not hard science though, and the sides could be reversed for some people, such as those who are left-handed, but it could be fun to learn and practice on friends and family. We've already covered quite a few NLP techniques so far as we've embedded them into customer experience. But what is NLP? The N stands for neurology, a branch of medicine or biology that deals with the nervous system. The nervous system sends sensory information to the brain and receives messages from the brain to coordinate actions. The L stands for linguistic. It's the scientific study of language, how we are able to use language and how language affects social norms and experiences. The P stands for programming, the way you process the information, and linguistics. NLP is a bank of ideas, tools and methods that can be used to achieve a personal goal or to help someone else, be that a client if you are an NLP practitioner, to achieve a personal goal or overcome what they perceive to be a problem in their life. You can use NLP techniques to build on your own skills or gain new skills. build customer rapport, which makes them more likely to return and more likely to spend more, can make you more confident in selling add-on services and increase your revenue, enabling you to close sales and gain new clients more effectively. In a nutshell, make you earn more money. On the next slide, the title will name some NLP techniques, so feel free to note the titles down so you can go on and Google them later. According to the author of the book, The Psychology of Optimal Experience, our brains receive more than 2 million bits of information from our 5 senses every second. According to the memory theorist Georgia Miller, we can only process around 5 to 9 bits of information per second, so most of the sensory information we receive about the world is deleted, so we can focus on what we believe to be important at that time. We don't have control over this process, it happens automatically, and the information we perceive as important is determined by our surface structure, the map we have built of the world through our own experiences. Plato was an ancient Greek philosopher, and the allegory of the cave is one of the more well-known pieces of his work. Please watch the TED video for a summary of the story. The story describes the prisoners' concept of the world, how they perceived the world based on their experience inside the cave. When one of the prisoners escapes, his perception of the world changes due to the new sensory information he receives. It's the sensory information that builds his experiences. So the question is, what sensory information do clients receive when they walk into your salon? How might that make them feel? Be honest with yourself. How might the sounds and smells trigger memories and emotions? If you did watch the TED video, you will have also heard in the video about how the prisoner returned to the cave after his escape to enlighten his former companions. Their reaction wasn't enlightenment though. They didn't immediately develop a desire to attempt their own escape and see for themselves. They became aggressive, in fact. They weren't thinking rationally, they were thinking emotionally, and the new information made them feel insecure. The theory of the wise mind teaches us that we have emotional thinking, when we make thoughts based on our emotions. Our rational mind is when we think logically and rationally. The wise mind is when the emotional and rational mind overlap, we have a sense of intuition. Our own beliefs and experiences can also cause us to develop a cognitive bias. A cognitive bias is the systematic error in thinking that affects decision making and judgment. Think of it as a factory setting or shortcuts that our brain has developed to protect us from potential threats. This is why we crave for routine and dislike change. As a business owner or groomer, you have to wear many hats, and whether you're aware of it or not, you have to sometimes be a salesperson to get new clients. Cognitive bias can be a stumbling block in getting those sales. Here are a few cognitive biases that may play a role in your success with customer service. Confirmation bias. That's favouring information that is consistent with your existing beliefs and discounting information that goes against your existing beliefs. If a customer's parents didn't believe in bathing dogs and the customer brings their cockapoo in for a groom every 6 months, that customer believes they spoil their dog and meet its grooming needs. Optimism bias. Neuroscience suggests that we are more optimistic than realistic about what will happen to us in the future. If you can help a customer visualize a better future with the help of your services, you can increase the frequency of their visits. That cockapoo owner isn't going to suddenly start coming every 6 weeks, but you may be able to get them to come every 12 with some subtle selling techniques. Anchoring bias is when we focus heavily on the first piece of information we receive when making a decision and discount the rest. So when a new inquiry comes in asking how much a groom is, make the first information you give them your selling point and give the price the last. Attentional bias is when people's perception is affected by their recurring thoughts, which affects their actions and decision making. In this instance, it would be you as the salesperson who hinders your own sales pitch due to your fears of another rejection, or you are convinced you aren't going to succeed because of external factors. How would you really know how your customers feel? What experience do your customers have when they come for their groom? What are they happy with and what are they unhappy with and what do they want? Simply ask them. When customers come to collect their dog, every groomer says, "Is that okay for you?" And every time the customer says, "Yes, thank you," or "Yeah, that's fine." Half the time they haven't really looked at the dog other than to greet it. They'll form their opinions at home based on what they usually think after their dog has had a groom. So what's the point in even asking? You've probably subconsciously thought that yourself and maybe even stopped asking your regular clients. Well, don't. Change the way you ask them. Use open questions that require an answer. How does he look today? What do you think to his cut this time? What could we do to improve? Ask them in a genuine way, like you do actually want to know their thoughts. Not like when you're at a supermarket till and they say, "Do you want help with your packing?" in such a parrot fashion that you would feel guilty if you said yes. Half the time they don't even make eye contact when they ask you. Make eye contact, ask in a friendly manner, and wait for the response. Tailor your open question to language that is natural to you so you sound genuine and not parrot it. You'll be surprised at people's honesty. We should ask customers open questions when they collect their dog, but some customers might be so British they'll still just politely say, "Good, thank you." If you've become friendly with your customers, they might be worried about giving any negative feedback, or because you look after their beloved pet, they may worry that you might be mean if they give you bad feedback, like how my husband would never complain about food at a restaurant in case they spat on it. So give them the option of giving you anonymous feedback, because all feedback is good. Without it, you could be carry on doing those things that the customer doesn't actually like. About 10 years ago, my favourite shampoo and cologne brand was Kelco, and one year it suddenly went up a third in price, long before we just accepted the cost of living crisis. So I shopped around and changed to another brand, but I couldn't find a cologne that was as strong as the Kelco one I'd been using. So after a few months, I just bought it. It was £50 a bottle, which was expensive then, and I bought 4 bottles so I got free delivery. So that's a really smart thing to do, obviously. So I took a picture of my 4 big bottles of cologne and put a post on my Facebook page announcing that the best cologne was back, and I felt great for looking after my customers. Then, over the following week, every other customer stopped me as I went to grab the cologne and politely declined. So I actually started asking. It turns out they all hated that cologne. They said it was too strong, it made their dogs rub or roll or hump each other and it got up their nose. So ever since then, I asked all customers if they'd actually like cologne, and so many of them decline. What I should have done before Kelco shot up in price was conduct an online survey asking if people liked the shampoo we used, the cologne, the finish of the groom, the style of the groom, the way they could book an appointment, the services we offered, and so on. Back then, I thought I knew what people liked, but I couldn't have been more wrong. I realised it was me who liked Kelco, and I was in the minority. To ensure your success, always wear your cheesy salesman hat when playing the customer service role. In sales and customer service, we can take the idea of using language to improve the way we communicate with customers to effect positive change. We've already discussed the use of open questions when communicating with a customer. What, where, why, when and how. A closed question only requires a yes or no answer and can end a conversation and thus forego a sale. For example, instead of asking, "Would you like to book?" which could simply end with a no reply, try asking, "When would you like to book in for?" And how does that cut look for you, instead of, "Does she look okay?" We can use the power of positive language to emphasize what we can do rather than what we can't do by eliminating the word not from your vocabulary. "I can't get you in for 2 weeks" becomes, "We're very busy at the moment, but as you are a regular, I can make space for you on such and such date." Instead of telling your customers off for neglecting their severely mattered dog because they're not going to come and pay you money if they know that you're going to get telling off, remember, use the classic compliment sandwich to highlight the issue, which is that they don't come often enough. For example, "It's good that Bella is here for a groom so I can make her feel nice and comfortable again. 6 months isn't working for her coat, so moving forward, I need to see her at least every 3 months. I should be able to leave her some short tail feathers and a cute little face." We appear to be finding a solution to a problem as Bella is important to us and we want what is best for her. How could the customer say no to that? A SWOT analysis is a useful tool that you can use for personal growth or to create business growth and should be redone periodically as things change and develop. Strengths, weaknesses, opportunities and threats. Strengths could be your location. qualifications that you hold, your decor, staff training, add-on services that you offer, portfolios, awards, your uniqueness, reputation, or years that you've been established. Weaknesses might be that you're difficult to find, that you have a waiting list for appointments, or no room or plans for expansion, no online presence, a poor marketing strategy, or lack of investment. Opportunities would be ways to expand, training, furthering qualifications, new clients that you would gain, events that you might do, collaboration, renting a table, offering new add-on services or product sales. Threats could be local competition, large chains, poor customer service, not being prepared, bad reviews, complaints or rubbish equipment. Once you've identified your strengths, weaknesses, opportunities and threats, you can create goals. Threats can often be turned into opportunities. If you are losing customers because you aren't offering a teeth cleaning service, for example, there is an opportunity to learn how to offer the extra service and improve customer retention. If your clippers keep breaking on you and you've had to rearrange customers, that becomes a threat. The opportunity presents to buy a new set, which in turn becomes a strength, as you now have a new reliable clippers. Your SWOT analysis could be more creative or as simple as that. Your present state is who you are in the here and now. Your desired state is what you want to achieve or become, your goal. With that in mind, set yourself a goal now. What is it you need or want? You may already have something in mind. Or do you have a problem you need to solve? There could be more Facebook page likes or more clients, more add-on sales, more returning customers, or a new or improved skill. Use those 3 questions to analyse it and identify how to achieve it. An NLP presupposition that is referring to your inner resources. You already have the inner resources needed to effect change. By resources, NLP practitioners mean the internal responses and external behaviours needed to achieve results. Firstly, the ability to learn. This is where growth mindset comes in, a belief that you can develop your skills and talents through hard work, the right strategies and guidance from others, rather than believing that you are born with a certain set of skills and talents and limits. In addition, we have confidence, focus, perseverance and willingness. A willingness to challenge our own beliefs and mindset. If you always do what you've always done, you'll always get what you've always got. In 1954, Julian Rotter developed the theory of the locus of control. People with an internal locus of control will believe that they are fully responsible for their life and the path they take. People who are of the mindset that their life is a result of what has happened to them have an external locus of control mindset. The latter think that successful people are lucky, or were born into money, or were in the right place at the right time, and that they are not so lucky. But by taking responsibility for your life, your choices, your journey, your reactions, your emotions, you become truly empowered.